Welcome back to the show. Check out these headlines. We have a big week for XRP ETFs and the entire banking industry going on chain. Oh, don't believe me when I say it, but you might want to believe the gentleman who does. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on X, YouTube, and DigPerspectives.com for exclusive content. Right now, it is $3.04 trillion market cap for crypto. The market's back up 3.2%, struggling to get back over that 3 trillion mark, but here we are. Bitcoin 86,600 plus, Ethereum 2,800 plus. The entire market is taking a beating. XRP's worked its way back to $2.04. We're up 7.7 on the 24. We're off 8.9 on the 7-day. So looking at the range of price ranging between 193 and 208, I hope everybody was able to catch the dip out there. Let's get started with this right here. First of all, it's John Deaton. He's running for Senate again in Massachusetts, and he's winning this time. Please go to johndeatonforsenate.com and donate what you can. I know I've donated already. I'm asking all of you to help the man who came to help us without anyone asking. That's what I'm asking. Do what you can. It doesn't have to be an enormous amount, but every little bit truly does help. Let's help John Deaton get the Senate seat in Massachusetts and turn the state around. Let's start right here, ladies and gentlemen. The signs are everywhere. XRP's lining up a move that could rattle the entire market. Look at this outside of New York Airport. It does appear. I believe that is correct. I could be wrong, but it is outside of an airport. I think it's New York, but I might be wrong on that. But nonetheless, there's Ripple advertising. It's happening in New York City. There you go. I love seeing it. I love seeing it. They're doing it for a reason because they know that we're getting ready to get the market infrastructure bill, which is going to change the face of how crypto grows forever. Because for the first time, we're going to start to see utility be the focus of the use of these digital assets and not primarily speculation. And that's exciting. And we know here both Franklin Templeton and Grayscale XRP ETFs have been approved for the New York Stock Exchange, going live next week, starting tomorrow and on. We have another magnificent 12 here. We know that some are already launched, like Canary, Bitwise. We see Grayscale, Franklin Templeton, 21 shares, CoinShares, WisdomTree, Invesco, VanEck, Fidelity, ARC, Galaxy, and we're still waiting to hear about BlackRock coming in with an XRP ETF as well. So keep your head on a swivel. Next week should be exciting. And here's Zach Rector to talk about the multiplier scenario, which could push XRP to a $40 to $200 range based on how much these XRP ETFs, as they roll out, begin to gobble up and take off of the market. As they sell the XRP or ETF shares, they will be putting that XRP underlying asset in a qualified custodian. And that multiplier effect that comes from that could push the range, as he says. Well, let's let Zach tell us.
XRP $40 to $200 scenario. Let's run through the math. What we observed on the Bitcoin ETFs is 62 billion of inflows. But during that same time period on the centralized exchanges, there was about 24 billion of outflows. So net, we have about 37 billion of inflows into Bitcoin. Bitcoin went from 38,000 to about 126,000 during that time period, growing by 1.76 trillion for its market cap. Now, that market cap multiplier is 46. And so what I did is we're looking at assumptions, conservative assumptions of 5 billion down to 50 billion coming into XRP over the next 5 years. And we're applying a 50x, 100x, and a 200x multiplier to that. And the base case that I'm looking at for XRP over the next 5 years is between a $40 to $200 XRP, staying ridiculously conservative and just taking it back to the math. Go check
There you have it right there. Give Zach Rector a follow on X and YouTube. And I think he's on TikTok as well. Give him a follow on all his platforms. Zach's doing a great job out here. We love it. Shout out to Zach and his family. ISO20022 goes live yesterday with the Big Bang cutover. For some reason, I'm reminded of the phrases Interledger Protocol, all the money, and XRP, the standard, right? And this here is the Swift announcement announcing yesterday that it was going to make that switch, and it has made that switch to ISO 20022. And as I've said about a gazillion times, I didn't think it would do a thing to price. And voila, we were correct. But nonetheless, I think it's because as expected, and the conversations, if you're new to the channel, but as expected, we know we need the market infrastructure bill to unlock all of this potential to begin to start using digital assets coded along with this new standardization of ISO 20022, which has been around for decades. And now the incorporation of coding digital assets along with that rich messaging data is possible. But we need that market infrastructure bill to get passed before we're going to start to see the proliferation of distributed ledger technology networks like the XRP ledger. At least that's what I believe, not financial advice. But nonetheless, a reminder that Ripple partner Thunes is plugged into bank services into Swift. This means Ripple liquidity that is routed through Thunes can reach any Swift connected bank, said to cover 11,000 plus banks. So you can see the connection. And again, we're waiting for the market infrastructure bill to clear the path of legality through legislation. That's what we're waiting for. Look, I'm reminded of, there was a time back in the day when you couldn't use fax machines in a doctor's office or a lawyer's office because they were new things that had not been legally defined. So you couldn't send confidential information about a patient or a legal client for a lawyer, right? That's where I think we're at right now. And we get the market infrastructure bill, it clears the path for all of that. Everything's legally defined. And then I believe you'll see the integration of these assets, not a full on, 100% flows. I mean, I don't think it happens that way because nothing I've seen over the almost last decade has unfolded that way. But nonetheless, let's get a reminder here, a refresher for everybody who's bummed about the price of the market and how down everything is versus the incredible fundamental news. This is the conflict of the investor. This is the conflict that we go through as investors. Take a listen to this from Pegah Soltani from Ripple.
High care. In today's payment world, the standards are really different around the world. So if you're using the SWIFT system or TIPS in Europe or Fed in US, you follow a different protocol. In addition, the data that you can transfer, the richness of that data is really limited. So what you get is a bunch of closed networks that don't speak to each other and unstructured data that's opaque. So there's a lot of manual intervention and ultimately a really poor payment experience. With ISO 20022, these problems will be solved. So ISO 20022 is a global standard for financial information exchange. This enables interoperability between different systems, straight-through processing of payments, and rich data transfer. And it'll also foster competition because it's open and flexible. At Ripple, we've been aligned with ISO 20022 from day one. We've always recognized that this is the direction of payments and it'll be better for everyone. And we were really a first mover on that front. We've also joined the standard body to help contribute to how payments will shape in the future. Going back.
There you have it right there. They've been aligned since day one. There it is. Shout out to Pegah Soltani and everybody at Ripple. And obviously, when all of this gets passed, it's the DTC will use XRP, says Unknown DLT. Once it is categorized as institutional collateral, its value will be very high. And what is Evernorth? Evernorth is the world's largest institutional XRP treasury. We're on path. And what do we know from Tom Sullivan here when he's making the remarks about SocGen? And well, let's just let him remind everybody right here.
Tom Sullivan, Head of Business Development for Digital Assets at SocGen in New York. I'm excited to talk about our stablecoin that was issued by SG Forge in 2023, EuroCV, also known as Coinvertible. The convertible stablecoin was issued with the main purpose of driving capital markets activities on chain. It was issued on the Ethereum blockchain in 2023, and in 2024 it became MiCA compliant. Along the way, SG Forge has established a number of milestones, including becoming one of the first banks to become a virtual asset service provider in Europe and to be able to support the MiCA rules. When MiCA went live in 2024, it was fully MiCA compliant, and it was also became fully transferable on the Ethereum blockchain. Since then, it will now be available on several other blockchains, including Solana, Ripple, and Stellar.
There you have that, but keep listening.
And we're looking forward to being able to use it as a means of cash and as a means of collateral using in this project.
All right, Tom, I see that the collateral movement that you just processed has already settled and our exposure is covered. That's amazing. You entered a movement on your side, and since we're using the same distributed ledger, I saw it update instantly within a matter of seconds, and my exposure is completely covered.
Joe, thanks so much. I mean, this has been so easy to do, and it's one of those things that when you think about all the time and effort we've spent in the past trying to find the right assets and to be able to deploy them and move them around and make sure that we have our assets reconciled, and to be able to do this so easily, it's just a breeze. Tom Sullivan.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this is exactly the moment we're in here. You know how when you're in the mall or an amusement park and you see the maps for everybody, right? You are here. You are here. We're literally at the place where Swift has migrated over with the Big Bang cutover. We're literally at the place where the DTCC has talked about the integration of multiple different distributed ledger technology protocols, right? We're literally at the place where we're about to see a dozen or more XRP ETFs rolled out onto the market that begin to take the loose liquidity of XRP off the market into a qualified custodian. You see what's coming, right? How about the volume of the G Treasury and Ripple Prime will go through XRP? Remember that XRP is at the center of everything Ripple does, and we've heard Brad Garlinghouse say it directly to us. Lock in. I agree with this. You're not bullish enough. Why? Because when we get that market infrastructure bill, Ripple already acquired G Treasury and Hidden Road. Between them, that's over $15 trillion worth of payment volume every year. And we're not even talking about growth potential. That's what they're doing right now collectively between the two. Over 15 trillion in settlement. So yeah, at some point, real USD and XRP itself are built to be settled inside of this. But we need the market infrastructure bill, which we're very, very close to getting, I believe. We've had Senator Tim Scott talk about getting a markup in the Senate for a floor vote in December. We're very, very close now. And these are real companies that have been settling and doing this for a long time. And now Ripple has acquired them. And they're beginning to run the 12.5 trillion at G Treasury through the ledger. Otherwise, what's the point? And the rest of the financial system, they're ready. Citibank, major liquidity provider for global cross-border payments. Swift, the messaging for global cross-border payments. Both went on chain. Remember one time when Brad Garlinghouse actually described RippleNet as basically like not even comparable to Swift? It's basically like, it's like liquidity. It's like JP Morgan and Citibank for the liquidity and Swift all in one. Plus it can do other things still that Swift can't do, right? Both firms successfully trialed fiat to crypto settlement via blockchain connectors. Synchronized P2P versus P settlement was achieved across networks. They're prepping for the moment to begin to work these things in. That's what's happening. That's what's exciting. And then here's the Wizard of Oz, Greg Kidd himself, formerly of Ripple, the Federal Reserve. Listen to what he says he's up to now that he's bought Vast Bank and his USBC stablecoin.
Stablecoins? Well, we're going to talk a little bit about deposit tokens. This is running on the same rails as stablecoins, but it's bank money. And because it's bank money, we have real coins. What I mean by real coins, this is FDIC insured money. Silver coin, $50 worth of silver, 1 troy ounce, with $100 of USBC, US bank coin on it, and 1 ounce of gold, currently $4,000, plus $10,000 of USBC. You can use these just like any other money that you're used to, like a $100 bill, but if you feel these, you're gonna feel the weight. Give them a try, redeem the money, 10,000 and 100, and the gold and silver value are still there.
There you have it. Greg Kidd's got things working, FDIC insured. But it reminded me of what he said he was doing at XRP Las Vegas 2025 on stage with Eleanor Jarrett. Take a listen to this right here.
On chain. And what that means is these are FDIC insured US dollars, complete with Reg E chargeback protections, means if you get robbed, you get your money back, running on chain. And in particular, under the new administration with open banking and fair access, those dollars can be held by every person all around the world. So that means essentially everybody in the world has a US dollar deposit account, FDIC insured. And so I'd ask you a question. You've heard about the new 5% tax. If you're on this ledger and you're sending money from, you're here under one visa and you're sending it back home to your mom, if that money never leaves being a dollar, never leaves the country, never even leaves the bank, is that a remittance? I don't think so. I think in this new world, if everything is on ledger, including the XRP ledger, and it's just moving on ledger, what does it mean anymore to move money from one country to another? It doesn't really happen. It just all stays on ledger. And it's the XRP ledger that made that possible all the way back in 2012. That's really why I joined Ripple to this day. And so buying a bank and putting US dollars on, we've also made an investment in the Bank of London, and I'm closing a bank deal in Europe soon. Mm-hmm. So that means dollars, pounds, and euros running 24/7 bank money on chain.
On chain, on the XRP ledger.
On the XRP ledger.
Okay.
There you have it. He goes on to say, and other chains eventually too. But this is where we're waiting for everything to go, and it's going to take the market infrastructure bill before we can see it happen. That has become clearly obvious that we need that. And you know what? We all should want that legal clarity for the entire space, right? Not just for ourselves. Taking a look at this right here, you can see the formation, multi-year ascending triangle right here. You can see the ascending triangle right here, ascending triangle right here with a longer duration. And, you can see what history says, what charts indicate. It does not mean it is guaranteed at all. It just says this is what the indicator is showing, right? And then I like this one too from Egrad Crypto. Shout out to him and Chart Nerd. XRP October month's price behavior. XRP on the monthly time frame still above the 21 EMA if you get into it. So you can see it right here. So that's where we are on the up close. We'll see what's going down. We are in November, getting ready to head into December. So this is getting exciting. The last few weeks of this year, ladies and gentlemen, where's it all going to go? And how long before we get that market infrastructure bill passed in the Senate? Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. I'll catch all of you on the next one.